kind of what's needed.
You have to go to China, right? Yeah, it'd be great though.
I think you're able to.
I was just talking to American. Yeah, he said he went to a Chinese. With a Chinese church. Okay.
Understand it's great large.
Like when I take it, focus.
Before we begin our special session, I would like to make a quick announcement. The Asan Institute for Policy Studies will be hosting a conference in June celebrating the 6 years of alliance between the Republic of Korea and the United States. And you will be receiving invitations very shortly, so please save the date on the calendar. And with that, we will now have a special session with Mr. Natsios.
It's not with me, it's with Mr. Shin. Yeah, he's the star here. I'm Andrew Natsios, and I'm going to be sort of, it's not a moderating this, we're just going to have a conversation. I read your book, Mr. Shin, twice now. I may read it a third time. It's a very moving story. And it's apparent that other people are reading it too, because you're becoming very famous. When I talk with people who know nothing about North Korea, they know Shin. They know them because they see you on television. And the book has been translated into 24 languages, and it's sold 300 or 400,000 copies. You've become very famous. How has your fame changed your life?
그게 첫 번째 질문이군요. I guess that's the first question.
That's the first question.
네, 이 질문에 대한 대답은 그냥 제가 발을 잘못 들인 것 같습니다. 이 인권 하는 일이라는 것에.
I guess the answer to that question is my answer would be I took the wrong step towards human rights, getting involved with the human rights situation.
제가 7년 전에 수용소 탈출할 때 사실 저는 이런 생활을 원한 게 아니었거든요.
Because 7 years ago when I escaped from the political prison camp, this is not the life that I wanted for myself or that I imagined for myself.
단지 그냥 수용소를 도망쳐서 그냥 배불리 먹어보고 싶고 그냥 그냥 그거 하나였었죠. 배불리 먹어보는 게 내 소원이었기 때문에 아직 탈출할 때는 그거밖에 없었죠.
Because at the time of my escape, my only wish was to eat well and pretty much nothing else, and that was my only desire or reason for escaping.
물론 제가 살았던 스토리 때문에 또 국제사회에서 이제 정치범 성서에 대한 여러 가지 생각이 바뀌었고 또 많은 사람들이 이 심각성을 많이 이해를 하고 이런 것들에 대해서 이제 여러 가지 논의를 많이 하고 있는 것에 대해서 굉장히 긍정적으로 생각을 하고 있습니다.
Of course, I'm very positive towards the fact that because of my life story, because of what I've shared, people knowing about it, the world community, people throughout the world have come to know, especially about the political prison camp situation and what's going on regarding that issue. So in that regards, I'm quite positive regarding that.
물론 제가 수용소에서 태어나서 탈출할 때까지 24년이었었거든요.
Of course, from the moment I was born in the prison camp and until I escaped, I spent 24 years of my life in that political prison camp.
근데 만약 지금 북한의 정치범 성서가 열리고 그 안에 있는 사람들이 여러분들 앞에 나왔었을 때에 여러분들은 저를 통해서 느꼈던 여러 가지 충격적인 거나 아니면 여러 가지 좀 깜짝 놀랄만한 그런 몇십 배 더 큰 충격을 받을 거라고 저는 생각을 하고 있습니다.
But I believe if the political prison camps in North Korea were to open up and the inmates who were incarcerated there were to stand before you and you were to hear their stories, I think compared to my story, what you've heard, the shock that you felt when you heard my story, you'd be shocked hearing their stories many, many times, much more stronger than what you felt hearing my story.
사실 뭐 여러분들이 알고 계시는 저에 대한 스토리는 저한테는 사실 아무것도 아닌 것들이었어요.
Because truthfully speaking, the story that you know of me, to me, it's really nothing special to me personally.
Let me ask you something about the question of food in the camps. Is food used as a weapon in the camps? Is it a means to control the inmates?
수용소를 운영하는 데 있어서 가장 중요한 게 먹는 문제죠. 먹는 것을 가지고 제스처를 이제 말을 듣게 하고 먹는 것을 가지고 여러 가지 처벌을 이제 적용하기 때문에 굉장히 중요합니다.
Yes, the food, the issue of food eating is very important in the prison camp system of North Korea. The food is used by the prison guards to control the inmates, to make them listen and obey. So it is plays a very important role in the political prison camp systems in North Korea.
사실 먹는 거는 이제 정치범 평소뿐만이 아니라 북한 사회 전체에 다 북한에 살고 있는 모든 국민들한테 다 적용이 되죠. 북한 정권이 이 먹는 걸 가지고 북한 사람들을 막아먹는다고 그들을 관리한다고 생각합니다.
Of course, I believe that even now, not just in the political prison camp system of North Korea, but food. Eating food and the issue of food is used by the regime outside of the camps as well. The whole country of North Korea, in North Korea, the food is used as a means to control the population and the citizens in that country.
제가 이렇게 말씀드리는 이유는 먹는 것 하나를 북한 사람들한테 주면서도 그것도 모두가 다 김정은이 당신들한테 주는 선물이라고 이렇게 홍보를 하면서 주기 때문에 너무나도 많이 하는 것 같습니다.
And of course, the reason I say that is because even just one piece of food item or food that is given to the people, it is promoted as a gift from Kim Jong-un, and I find that that type of propaganda, that type of system, very unfortunate.
물론 정치범 성소에서도 제스들한테 뭐 생활을 잘하거나 아니면 뭐 여러 가지 특별한 일을 했을 경우에 거기에 대한 보상으로 밥을 좀 더 주는 그런 게 있기 때문에 우리도 당연히 그렇게 해서 다른 음식 그런 경우에는 그렇게 가수들이 저희들한테 주는 선물이라고 생각합니다.
And of course, in the political prison camp system, the inmates, if they did well in terms of work or if they did something well, they were rewarded with food. And of course, the inmates believe that this is a special gift from the prison guards to the inmates because the inmates did something special to merit the gift of food.
뭐 수용소에서 움직이는 쥐를 잡아먹어도 물론 간수가 승인해야지 잡아먹을 수 있지만은 그걸 잡아먹어도 우리는 잡아먹는 제수들은 그것도 간수가 저희들한테 이렇게 줄 수 있는 선물이라고 생각을 하죠.
And of course, even the rats that are in the prison camp, we cannot really catch it and eat it unless we have the permission of the prison camp guards. And if we are given the permission to catch and eat the rats, then yes, we would consider that as well a gift or a reward from the prison camp authorities.
사실 이 먹는 거 수용소에서 이제 먹는 거는 사실 자기 목숨보다 그게 죽는 것 죽음보다도 더 소중하고 더 중요하게 생각하고 있습니다. 많은 사실들이.
And many inmates consider eating, the privilege of eating and filling their stomach, to be more important than life itself for many inmates.
How often did you eat rats? Once a month? Once a year? How often?
저는 굉장히 자주 먹으려고 노력을 했지만은 그 쥐가 너무 영리하기 때문에 잘 안 나타나죠.
Well, I made every effort to eat as much as possible, as many times as possible, the rats around the camps. But of course, the rats are very cunning and very smart, so it was very hard to catch the rats.
이제 그게 쥐가 나타나서 우리가 잡을 수 있는 것도 아니고 쥐는 굉장히 영리하고 그래서 우리는 쥐가 생각하는 것보다 몇십 배 더 우리가 여러 가지 해가지고 잡아서 이제 뭐가 되는 고기죠.
And of course, the rat meat, even it appeared before, so we couldn't eat it without the permission of the prison guards. And we had to use more mental effort, many times more than the rat itself, to try to catch the rat that was very smart in evading capture.
근데 이 때에 따라서 다 먹을 수 있는 건 틀리죠. 잠자리도 잠자리처럼 잠자리도 잡아먹을 수도 있고, 메뚜기도 잡아먹을 수도 있고, 아니면 이 개구리도 잡아먹을 수가 있고, 하지만 모든 게 다 간수가 승인하야지만이 먹을 수 있는 거죠.
Of course, depending on the situation, we would try to catch other things such as dragonflies or grasshoppers or even frogs. But of course, even these things, we had to get permission of the prison camp guards in order to be able to eat these things.
If you only ate the ration they gave you and nothing else, no rats, no dragonflies, no wild food, would you be able to survive? What would happen to you?
사실 이 시원사를 운영하는 관리팀이나 간수들이 굉장히 용이하죠. 그래서 이제 그들이 그 음식을 먹고 그렇게 준 음식 때문에 죽을 수 있을 정도의 그런 상황은 안 만듭니다.
The operators or the prison guards who operate the prison camps in North Korea, they're very smart people. So they distribute food or give food in a way where it's very minimal, but not to the point where it would end up starving to death the inmates, the prison camps.
그들이 주는 음식을 먹으면서 굉장히 굶주리고 배고프고 이런 고통은 당하게 해도 그런 음식을 먹고 죽게끔 그렇게 하지는 않거든요.
And even though, even with the food that the prison camp gave to the inmates, we would still be hungry and still suffering. But it wasn't to the point where we were dying, or the inmates were dying because of the food situation given out by the prison camp.
Let me ask you something about the prison camp itself. Do you know why your family was put in prison?
그건 저도 지금 모르는 거. 그래서 그걸 알기 위해서 제가 유엔에도 요구하고 또 다른 경로를 통해서 북한에도 요구하고 있는 거죠.
I do not know why my family was sent to the prison camp, and so in order to find out the truth about that reason, I've sought out the UN and other means, other avenues of finding out information about why my family was sent to the political prison camp.
사실 북한의 정치범시설뿐만이 아니라 많은 다른 여러 가지 북시설들이 굉장히 많죠.
And of course, in North Korea, besides the political prison camp system, there are other detention facilities throughout the country of North Korea.
근데 이제 제가 생각하건대 북한에 있는 정치범시설의 대수들 거의 90% 이상이 자기들이 무슨 죄 때문에 들어와 있는지 알는 것 같지는 않아 보이고 또 그들이 실제 그들 죄를 지어서 들어갔다고 생각하지는 않아요.
But my thinking is that almost 90% of the people that are in the political prison camps in North Korea, they probably do not know why they were sent to the prison camps, and they probably believe that they didn't commit any crimes or that they didn't do anything wrong to be sent to the prison camp.
정말 이 북한 정권에 잘못한 사람인 경우에는 관객청으로 죽는다든지 실제 죽었겠죠.
And if somebody, if a North Korean citizen really committed a grave crime, that they would have been publicly executed or they would have been killed. They would not have been sent to the prison camp.
그래서 지금 제가 좀 전에 말씀드리려고 했었던 건데 지금 제가 이 사회에 살면서 생각했던 게 그때는 아무 생각 없이 무조건 어떻게 하나 살아나려고 이렇게 노력을 했지만은 그때 당시 그렇게 고통을 스러웠었다면 아마 관객청으로 총받아서 죽는 게 훨씬 더 행복하지 않았겠나 하는 생각을 해요.
And now, as I live in this society now, I look back when I was in prison camp, thinking that I wanted to escape, but I believe that it may have been better if I was just publicly executed instead of going through living in the prison camp.
제가 이렇게 말씀드리면 그들은 항상 죽음에 노출되어 있거든요.
And the reason I say this is because all the inmates, they are exposed, constantly exposed to death all around them.
매 맞아 죽을 수도 있고, 아니면 일하다 죽을 수도 있고, 아니면 뭐 잘못 걸려서 공격충으로 죽을 수도 있고, 항상 아무 데 가도 그들은 항상 죽음을 항상 같이 하고 사는 거죠.
And I say that because they could be beaten to death, or they can die from accidents while doing slave labor, or they could be found to have committed a crime within the camp and executed in the camp. So they face the death constantly.
How often did you see people get executed or beaten to death? Could you give us some examples?
1년에 2번씩은 꼭 했었어요.
Public executions within the camp, they were held twice a year, 2 times every year.
보통 뭐 1명 할 때도 있고 2명 할 때도 있고.
Sometimes 1 inmate, sometimes 2 inmates were executed.
공개체험 하는 시기는 3월달하고 11월달 이렇게 봄하고 가을철에 마지막으로 꼭 있죠.
And the public executions were held in March and in November, so in the springtime and the fall time.
그럼 이제 제가 처음부터 공개체험을 목격해서 매 해마다 계속 해까지는 계속 그게 했었죠.
And I remember since the time when I saw my first public execution, and every year until my escape, I had to witness the public executions in the camp.
Were there instances of teachers or guards beating people to death, not public executions, but just because they're angry?
물론 이제 사실 별일 아닌 거 가지고 굉장히 이제 크게 벌할 수도 있고 또 별일 아닌 거 가지고 그냥 이렇게 넘길 수도 있고 그거는 이제 가수들이 자기 기분에 따라서 이제 또 행동하는 거기 때문에 뭐 거기 잘못 걸리면은 뭐 우습게 죽을 수도 있고 굉장히 여러 가지 상황.
Depending on the mood or the attitude of the prison guard, they can make a big deal out of nothing, or they could just let a minor incident pass. But really depended on the mood of the prison guard. They could send somebody to death, or they could just let it pass and not punish the inmate.
뭐 구타도 무슨 그냥 뭐 손으로 하나 때리는 정도가 그런 거는 구타라고 생각 안 하죠. 뭐 자기 기분에 따라서 멍덩이를 때릴 수도 있고 아니면 다른 여러 가지 때릴 수 있는 도구들로 때릴 수도 있고.
And of course, when I mean beating, it's not just simply a guard using his hand to simply beat the inmate, but they would use, in combination with their hands, they would use stick or other tools to beat the inmates.
근데 이제 개수인 경우에는 그런 걸 하도 목격하고 그런 걸 하도 당하기 때문에 사실 매 맞고 그렇게 당하는 것에 대해서는 별로 큰 문제라고 생각은 안 해요.
But unfortunately, the inmates, they were so used to seeing so many of their fellow inmates getting beaten up and endure beatings that to most of us, we do not deem it special or unique.
You have a father who is still in the camps. Have you had any communication with him? What's happened to him? Are you worried about him at all?
몇 년 전부터 뭐 여러 가지 경로를 통해서 이렇게 아버지에 대한 소식을 알려온다고 했었지만 아직까지 이제 그런 소식은 없어요.
For the past few years, I've tried through various means to try to find out the whereabouts or what happened to my father, but I haven't been able to get any clear answers or satisfactory answers from my
유엔에 이제 또 아버지에 대한 여러 가지 소식을 알고 거기에 대한 해명을 요구하기 위해서 유엔에 신청을 했고 유엔이 또 북한인 정권에다가 요구를 했지만 북한 정권에서는 거기에 대한 답을 전혀 해주지 않았습니다.
And recently I went through the United Nations and officially pleaded with them to find out what happened to my father, and the UN took my case and they went to the North Korean government, sent a letter, and they requested the North Korean government to find out information about my father, but they didn't answer the